Hello all, Alison here. Welcome back to Words and Pictures for part 3, I think it is. I'm losing count, of the Halloween concertina tag book. So we've got tags put together and it's time to start thinking about some collaging. And yeah, confession time, I'm I'm a hoarder of ephemera, as if you couldn't have guessed. If you'd like to catch up with where we've got to so far, I will link the Halloween tag book playlist down below. So follow along there if you want to see these tags being made, the construction of the booklet. My thought with this is that if I go with something black and whitish, collage-wise, on these coloured panels, and then maybe something a bit colourful on these mostly black and white and green mossy panels, then I'll have put together something that ties the two together. I mean, I already think that as you move through them, because of the greens in these tags and then the greens here, it's actually green that is already tying these tags together. I've got two options for cover. I kind of like this one because then you start banging with the skull, or if one folds it in the other direction, then your first one is in here, so maybe that's a bit gentler, not straight in with the skull. Then the skull's on the back though, just waiting to grab you. Sorry to those who are skull squeamish. Still haven't trimmed these hinge ribbons because I just, you know, something may occur to me that I want to do with them, so I'm not going to cut them off just yet. But let's just start. I am going to work on the basis that that's going to be front cover, I think. So we'll leave the cover for another day. I'm going to do just a little bit of positioning of things so that I can have a look. And one thing that is going to continue to play a part, I think, is going to be this mummy cloth. So what I might do is just cut myself some snippets of this so that I'm ready to just press them into action at any moment. They might be part of what I want, tucked behind a piece of ephemera or tucked behind a paper doll, adding extra little bits of texture. I seem to have got some strands here that are and it's one of the joys to me about this stuff is that you get these wonderful extra strands of texture and cobwebby sort of, it's going to catch me in my face horribleness as I walk through a room. So yeah, I mean, Halloween it's not a major festival for me, but I do enjoy the aesthetic of quite a lot of it. Probably the sort of ethereal, eerie elements, maybe more than the more garish, cartoony kinds of ones. So you can already see that by placing black and white paper dolls around on these, she's not quite definite enough to go there, but I do love her, so we'll keep her out. Placing the black and white paper dolls onto these colourful tags is already giving us a kind of sense of connection, I would suggest, from the colourful ones to the black and white ones and back again. He's got a little bit in between the legs that we can get rid of, and then we see other things in between. Maybe we want another sitting down. We want somebody sitting down. Oh, he's quite good up there, isn't he? Quite like that. And maybe these women get to go on the other side. And if I am saying this is the cover, I'm not convinced I want a paper doll on the cover, so I would only need 2 more for the other side. So let's put those there for now and have a little look at what we might want to do with something with a bit more colour. So I've got packs of ephemera here, paper ephemera. Yeah, you see, there's beetle there already, so maybe the next beetle might go there. He could always be clear embossed to give him a little bit of glossy presence. I'm going to go in this episode probably for a rough layout of some ephemera bits and bobs, and then we'll do fine detailing and things maybe another day, and hopefully finish off with the cover. Yeah, we'll see. I'm aiming to get done before Halloween. Aiming to get done. Yeah, I like him there. And there's nothing stopping me having some colourful ephemera on these other pages, but we'll see how we go when we get to them. So this gorgeous green butterfly here, kind of sickly green, almost almost unwell. Seems like it might be something for either page. Ooh, maybe a frame. Is this too broad for our pages? But then what we could do is cut it in half. I'm gonna take the risk. There might be a day when I want that. It's just going to draw our attention, and it gives him a lovely place to sit. Look at that. I'll trim it later. And then we might want the other half of that on the other side. Let's see. Let's give her maybe something to stand on here. Black lace. I think I'd rather have, or maybe rather than rather. Let's say we have it as well. Let's trim that. Maybe, I was thinking of some real lace to go under her, but I'm now wondering whether what I want is a little bit of cheesecloth here. I'll scrap it up a little more when I come to that. That's quite good. And we might want to put some real lace into the mix there as well. There may be places on these where I really don't want to cover up too much, because I love what's going on already. I'm going to have to mess this up now because it's all covering up too much of the background, and I can't quite see what it is I want to have happen. So as I mentioned in the previous episode, often with a tag book, I've made the whole of the tags in advance. This time around, this business of working on things as a whole is operating a little bit differently from that methodology. Yes, I want that there. I might keep the other half later. We'll just give that a little bit of inking to soften the edges of it. Ordinarily with a tag book, I would probably have made the whole of the tags and then just put it all magically together. But partly because we're working with such bright colours here, and that's not my usual modus operandi, I wanted to be sure that I was enjoying what was going on. So I hope you can see how, just trying to trim this to 90 degrees, I'm not doing a very good job of it at the moment, it's getting smaller and smaller. See how these black and white elements just allow us to tie across from one side to the other. This definitely wants a bit of inking around the edge. At the moment I'm working with whatever colour is on this sponge here. I might find myself a more subtle frame in a minute. I might find something a little different, but for now, as a sort of working policy, I think we're going to stick with that, just because I do rather like how it suits him sitting up there. So each of these is now bedded into their background tag a little bit. They've each got an element that is neutral, not always black and white, but neutral, giving them a little sense of how they connect into the background around them. We'll maybe have him leaning on a little poison label. And this is the point generally at which these paper dolls start to tell me little stories about what they get up to. Poisoners. Poisoners galore there tend to be in my Halloween worlds. It's such an insidious mode of murder. I think if we're going to use that, I do like having, as you know, repetition and variation, so that slightly smaller version of that same label, but I think we might want it on the back rather than on this side. So I'm now looking for quite bold black and white bits of ephemera, so that they've got one each as a toxie in here. I do love a little bit of toxie. Come here. Might need to get the tweezers out in a minute to be able to do this satisfactorily. I think, well, I do like the route, so that's again ready for the other side. he could do with something to stand on here, I feel. I have still got these little bits of textured typewriter trimming. This is from a project that you may have seen the short for. I'll link to that if I remember down below. That's quite a nice bit of texture, just those J's he's standing on there. Quite enjoying that. And this buggy theme, the buggy theme, I'm quite enjoying on these in-between pages. So let's see if we can identify a couple more bugs. There's a nice bug. That's the same bug as this, but smaller. In a minute, I might just tip these out of the packet. So again, he might want to go on the reverse side, that one. Ideally, what I'd love would be a little black and white, well, black spider. It's sort of what I'm hoping might jump out of the packet at me. I mean, I hope it doesn't jump out of the packet at me, but you never know. Could be useful. Quite like that, just an extra little label in there. Maybe we do a similar thing down here. Don't want to cover up too much of this brick work though, so maybe there's something a little subtler, a little smaller. I do have somewhere a Snippets version. So these are all smaller labels. There we are. There's that same label, in fact, but in a smaller, subtler one. And maybe that's where we put some toxic labeling. Quite like that. That might be useful when we turn over. So you can see I'm just, as I go, I'm grabbing things that I think might be useful for later or fun to play with. Curious is nice. I'm thinking as maybe a little label that sticks out over the edge. But if that's going to stick out over the edge, the back of it is going to be white. So I'll need to stick something on the back of there to make that more interesting. Just having a little rummage. Got these nice strips here of, yeah. So if I glue that to the back of here, that'll mean there's something of interest on the other side when it turns over. So let's do that. Let's assume that's what's going to happen. A little extra label that's going to stick out over the edge. Don't really mind what that says. I assume that word was once washable. Who knows? Let's trim that. A little bit of inking around the edge. Just to deal with those bright white lines, if they're visible. So I think that might be going to go some, oh, I was going to go that way around, wasn't I? Could even go under there. No, I like it over, I think. Let's pop that there for now. It's not quite making me happy yet. Maybe it goes a little higher up and we have some other labels here. So at this point, it's sort of rummaging and positioning and just seeing what one enjoys. And because I've got these packets from various years, I've got various sizes and possibilities. Ooh, we've also got, deliciously, the Halloween versions of the quote chips. You've seen me use quote chips a lot because I love them. Maybe it's as simple as using another piece of that upright. So I definitely want the curious sticking out because it's going to show from every direction. Do we complete the frame here? I'll juggle a bit more. The other thing I've also got out are my regular little Snippets labels and Curator labels, because those are always going to be interesting to play with in terms like this. More bugs, lots more bugs. We have got more bugs. I still want a spider. There must be a spider in here somewhere. Otherwise I'm going to have to stamp the spider, but that might be a sort of finishing touches. I'm going to save this bit of black lace for the other side. We might want that. These beautiful book covers I'm going to turn into books at some point, but probably not today. Josephine. Sorry, that's a random bit of historical quoting. That's quite a nice label. Again, don't want to cover up too much there, but I would like a little bit extra going on here. And I feel like that could do with a black and white thing. So I've got 13s and 31s. Isn't it a little bit spooky? That you just reverse those letters. You get Halloween and then you get unlucky 31. Quite like the large version of that for him, potentially. Let's have a look. Because he's got these wonderful circles going on already. In which case I don't think I want 13 in both places, so that might be better as 31 down there. Halloween with the skull. I'll keep that for the other side because that might be nice. And then we want just something, a little something extra going on up there. That's quite a nice poison label. I like that one. We'll maybe save that for the other side as well. One more little sort of labely thing for him, I feel. That's a bit big. It's going to cover up lots of that background. Or maybe I do like... No, it's too pink. Too pink for him. Would I tuck that in there? Is that covering up too much of our background? No, I think that's quite good. I feel like there's something missing around her. Don't know what it is yet. Number 3. That's too lucky. 3 is my lucky number, so I can't possibly do that. Maybe it's an extra little bug just tucked in underneath her. Shake well before using. At the moment, I think that might be enough for this side. I might glue these down and then have a look at some words and some metal bits. Maybe that's in the next go. Maybe what we do is now flip. So we'll glue these down. Then I'm going to flip and get the basics down in terms of paper ephemera for the other side. Then that'll leave us an episode where we're maybe adding stamping or metal. I think this is a pretty good starting point. I can't decide what to glue down first. So at this point, as always, I tend not to glue down fully. I really don't glue right to the edges in case I later want to slip something else underneath. Just an extra little bit of this or that, whether it's cheesecloth, textured mummy cloth, or whether it's extra little labels. Ooh, maybe that's what he needs. Maybe we say with the paper dolls, we always add a little bit of mummy cloth underneath for added texture. That's a quite good tall bit for him. Grand. So let's glue down this, and you can see I just peel it up. If I can get my fingers underneath. Where it's going over something as glossy as that background, it will need quite a bit of glue to be happy. Let's get this one down. And as you can see, again, I'm really not gluing to the edges, because then what I can do is I can do funky stuff like add torn and ripped texture. I'm just sticking my nail underneath, lifting that up, and then I can come in with that blending tool, add a bit of distressed texture to that label. Delicious. That was going there, wasn't it? So to get this down, I will put a little bit of glue behind so that there's an extra bit of adhesion when I place this, and then place him. Let's put it a bit further apart. That bit heading up there, that bit heading down there, either side of his head. There he goes. Oh look, and I haven't glued his floor down yet. It would be friendly of me, wouldn't it, to give him something to stand on. There we go. And if I want to keep a bit more of this background, I could nip off a little bit extra of that, but actually I quite like that sticking out. And I think I probably want that. Do I want that over his arm or under his arm? It wasn't interfering with his arm before. Maybe, maybe that's because I had it not covering up the background at all. Do you know what? I now don't like the large version. I'm going to revert to, yeah, I'm going to revert to the smaller one. So again, it's just about keeping an eye on what's happening, noticing if something doesn't please you. I like the rooting of this dark bit here, and I think I'm also going to enjoy the rooting of this black lace here, even though it's largely covered up, largely covered up by this textured cheesecloth. I think there's something good about that strong, bold, horizontal, not at the same height as this one. Repetition and variation requires that I vary the positioning. So let's have that positioned so that, yes, you can see that lace happening underneath. Let's pop some glue on the back of her. There she is, ready to play. She's got her cheesecloth going on here, but maybe we do want a couple of extra strands. There's just sort of leftover strand. Oh, I see that's tucked behind him. Maybe we just have a few of those, adding extra texture behind here. Nice. Let's tuck this one under her hand. I remember where that was. Sometimes as this gluing process goes, things end up in a slightly different place than you originally planned, but very often it ends up being an improvement. Not sure about this bug in there. I'm wondering whether it wants to be something simpler, like a little Snippets label or a little Curator label, something less overtly buggy, if you see what I mean. It's more like it's one of the labels of some of the potions that she sells. Obviously she's an apothecary, not a poisoner, but you would be advised to shake well before using. That's somewhere where you might want a little bit of metal, so let's bear that in mind for the future. And then one last little bit of gluing down here. I think I'm going to stick with this frame. It was a instantaneous kind of a decision, but I think I'm sticking with it. I think it's working. So let's get that roughly glued down. I'm going to try and make sure I leave room to tuck other things under if I so choose. Let's go down this side. I also quite like that it's tackling, it's covering some of that bright orange, which is not my favourite colour of orange. I'm just going to say it. I might want to trim that framing, or I might just ink it on the back. So he's sitting with that, and we want a little bit of this going on. So again, I'm just going to give it something to stick to approximately, but it's really going to be the paper doll himself that allows that to hold down. And as long as I work fairly speedily, then if I've not put things in quite the right place, I've got some time to nudge them in and out. But that looks pretty good. He's sitting on the frame. He's leaning on the poison label. Let's just move it a little further down. And the mummy cloth is working nicely behind him. Obviously, we'll distress that a little more. Tuck it in. And then this, let's just make sure we've got the... Oh, yes, going to need to trim that before that goes on. There we go. A little bit of some... Oh, that's the lovely loose tissue paper going on the other side of there, so we'll leave that for now. Let's make that nice and high up, because then maybe on the other side we have something low down. Let's check it's... Yeah, see, that's really nice with that sticking out there. A little bit of additional inking. And that again is somewhere where I might want some metal work later on. This isn't... Oh, it's partly glued down. Yeah, if you're gluing over crackle texture, you will need to pay a little bit of extra attention and make sure it's working all right. that might be where this other little bug goes. That would make this a trio of bugs, which is quite nice, isn't it? Or it's too too buggy. Maybe better is, again, a simple little Curator label, adding some, in fact this is a stamped one, so I also have the Curator labels in the stamp version, which means that I can create them in any colour variation that I happen to need. Let's have this little green one because that's going to tie us into our greens, just as an extra little, it's probably that way up. That's good. I like that little cluster there. And we might go for something like, for instance, a nice strong bit of black down here later on, but I think that's gonna be metal and words in the next episode. I think that's gonna be our little game. So oh, you're not glued, are you? The bug about to go on his travels. I'm keeping those pages at the moment quite simple, partly because I love the backgrounds exactly as they are and I don't want to lose too much. But I hope you can see how having that bit of colour on there just balances the game. Do we want, no, that's really the wrong colour red. That's not good. But what we might have in the sticker book is something that is the right colour red. For instance, these butterflies are rather fabulous, aren't they? Toxic on here. Oh, see, maybe that goes behind that bug. Just as well we didn't glue them all the way down. Going across there. That's a lot of red. I'm gonna go with it. Wow, we really are pushing the boat out here. That's going to mean I'm going to want something reddish going on in other places. We'll work out what it is as we go. Maybe something simple like this little label down here. Yeah, that just gives us something a little extra there. Nice. Yeah, that might be enough for this side for now. So you can see the game. I'm balancing mostly black and white and neutrals on my colour tags. I'm adding little bits of extras at the moment to these in-between tags. Obviously that skull wants to stay prominent. This bug wants to stay prominent. Loving that cobweb. So I'm going to turn over and continue to do the same sort of thing the other side. And I hope you'll stick around to see the dive in for the close-up at the end. Thank you as always for your company on this creative journey. I couldn't be happier to interact with you below the line when you've got questions. Watch out in the description for links to, what was I going to do, the tag, Halloween tag album playlist, and also maybe the short for the project where I used these wordy things. But thank you, as always, for your company on this creative journey, and happy crafting all.